Welcome to today's episode of the Conscious Grief series. I am delighted to be with Gary Rowe today. Gary is an amazing man. He is an author, a speaker, and a grief specialist. He now lives in Texas, Central Texas, and serves as a hospice chaplain who has had an exciting career traveling around the world, and he has 7 adopted children, which is very, very inspiring. I am so thankful to be talking to you today. Thank you very much, Gary.
Oh, Tara, I'm glad to be here. Honored. My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I feel like we have, so much to talk about. And I just want to, first of all, hear what your definition of grief is.
Oh, I guess that is pretty important to define what it is we're talking about, right? Mine is very simple. I would define grief as a natural and healthy response to a real or perceived loss. And the reason I think that little definition is so important for me is it reminds me, okay, it's natural and it's healthy. Because so many times when we're grieving, we just think it's weird, right? I mean, we think it's weird because it feels weird to us. It even feels wrong and strange to us sometimes. But, if we love, we're going to grieve because sooner or later, things are going to upset our life's apple cart and it's going to affect our relationships. Mm-hmm. So it's natural and healthy. It's not weird at all. In fact, if we choose not to grieve, we're really holding ourselves back from really living.
Right. I completely agree with you. Would you like to share a bit more about that?
It's a little illustration that I use, and please forgive me. Illustrations always have their limits, right? So don't pick apart this illustration very much. Have mercy. Mm-hmm. I envision everybody gets born and comes into this world with a standard issue suitcase, and they begin to have experiences in life, and so they begin putting things in their suitcase, so to speak. And I worked with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Corporation for a while, believe it or not, on the island of Maui, that I never got over, so I wear these shirts all the time. And they did an interesting study, and they found out that it takes 19 positive guest experiences in their hotel to outweigh 1 negative experience. And I thought to myself, from my psychology background and ministerial background, I thought, whoa, that really holds true in life too. A negative experience, a traumatic experience, a loss carries a lot of weight with it. So let's think about it this way. We get this standard issue suitcase. We have some good experiences and those go in 2 or 3, and then we get a bad one, what we think is bad. And it's a brick in our suitcase. And all of a sudden it outweighs those 3 positive experiences. And if we get enough of those growing up and in life, you can kind of picture what happens. We're lugging around this suitcase full of bricks. And pretty soon it's not sufficient. We have to buy another suitcase. Mm-hmm. And then pretty soon that becomes our baggage, right? Mm-hmm. And when we choose not to grieve, what we're really signing up for is we're saying, I'm fine lugging all this around. I am just fine. I know I'm exhausted all the time. I know I sense that there's something better, down here. I know that there's something more out there, that there's something better. And I'm signing up for anxiety, for depression, for relationships that are less optimal than they could be. I'm signing myself up for pain, believe it or not. But it is scary. I'll grant it's always scary for me, and it's scary for everybody else to kind of go into those suitcases and open the proverbial grief Pandora's box, not knowing, it's not going to feel good. Mm-hmm. We will do amazing things to avoid not feeling good, even though we go through life not feeling good, because we're avoiding that, if that makes sense. So what we really need to do, and what grief offers us a chance to do, what each loss offers us a chance to do, is to open our suitcases a little bit, because each loss brings up previous losses. It's automatic. You can't stop that. It's just there. It's like all our losses are on a little thread. And when this loss happens, the thread goes boo, you know, it just shakes all the way back there. And it gives us an opportunity to kind of open our suitcase, look at those bricks, and begin to unpack them. And then one day we discover, wow, maybe I really don't have to lug all of this stuff around. Maybe I can learn from it and then release it somehow, if that makes sense. So I really think that's the key to all of this. Grief must be expressed. It will be expressed one way or another. If we don't do it consciously, there's the word, if we don't do it consciously and proactively and in healthy ways, it will leak out of our lives in other ways, usually in unhealthy ways, usually in ways that we'll regret in our relationships, our interactions, even our careers.
I love that analogy. Thank you. And could you, for people who don't know about your background, talk about the bricks in your suitcase?
I must have been born in a brickyard. I've never said that before, but you know, it kind of feels that way. Okay, I'll go through this very quickly, but at the end of this story, I think everybody listening will be able to see, oh, no wonder you wound up in grief work. That makes perfect sense. I lost large chunks of my childhood to the evil of sexual abuse, multiple perpetrators over multiple years. My family was, you know, we use the term dysfunctional. Yes, every family is dysfunctional. It's just how much, right? And mine was pretty bad. I have one brother, he's 15 years older than I am. And so we were both kind of only children. My parents' marriage was not good. It was volatile. It was unpredictable. My mom was actually slipping into mental illness slowly for a number of years, unrecognized and untreated, because in the 1960s and early 70s, you didn't know what to do with that anyway. And I lost both grandfathers before I ever really knew who they were. One grandmother never knew who I was because of dementia. So there's very little extended family support in my life. And my mom, because of her mental illness, separated us from the rest of kind of the family, that especially the healthy part of the family. I lost numerous other relatives. I lost a best friend at the age of 12. He sat right in front of me in homeroom in 7th grade, the first period of the day. And he never came back from Christmas break. He had died of spinal meningitis. Healthy kid, great kid, smart kid, athletic kid. And he was a really, really good friend. And I got to spend the rest of my 7th grade year starting every day with that empty desk in front of me. And that's the first time, Tara, I can ever remember honestly asking the question, why? You know, I don't get this. I don't understand this. This feels wrong. There's something strange about this. I don't like this. You know, I don't like this. Soon after that, my parents separated and divorced. That was not really, honestly, a surprise to me. And by default, I lived with my mom. She had a mental breakdown, so I bounced over and lived with my dad. I was with my dad for 6 months. It was a great 6 months. He was healthier than he'd ever been. And he had always been my solid parent. Then one Sunday afternoon, he dropped in front of me of a heart attack, never regained consciousness, and died 7 days later. I'm grateful for that window of 7 days because he was in ICU and they got his heart resuscitated, but there was no brain activity whatsoever. And they kept him alive on machines, but it allowed me a chance to go in and at least sit with him, memorize his face. I remember doing that because I was afraid I was going to forget, you know, memorize his face and say everything I wanted to say, ask for forgiveness over and over and over again because I was a stupid teenage boy and stupid teenage boys do stupid things. And I nodded my head along with my brother when doctors said, you know, there's no brain activity here. We need permission to turn off the machines because I knew Dad wouldn't have wanted to be that way. And he died a couple of hours later. And I remember thinking right then, I thought, my life as I know it's over. I mean, luckily, I was a competitive swimmer growing up, from age 6 all the way through college. And that connected me with some really good people, really good. I mean, my friends were swimmers. We had grown up kind of together. My friends weren't really at school. They were in the pool. And because we traveled together on the weekends, it connected me with other moms and dads and families. So I had some examples out there other than my own family of how life worked. Well, my mom got out of psychiatric care, moved into the apartment that my dad and I lived in, but had another mental breakdown, made a suicide attempt. And I just kind of flew under the radar for 6 weeks living on my own. I was 15. I had what's called a Texas hardship driver's license, so I could drive and so I could get around. And finally, one of those swimming families showed up at my door and asked me to come live with them. And my healing journey started when I crossed over that threshold. Now, this is the ironic thing about loss. I was thinking my life is done. Mm-hmm. In reality, my healing journey was about to leap forward and really propel me into my life's mission, but I didn't know that at the time. I do remember at the age of 16, sitting down one day in my room in this family's house and saying to myself, okay, life is going to be tough. I know that. I'm going to get hit. So I would like to prepare myself for these hits somehow. And if I can prepare myself, part of that means not just handling them well, but figuring out a way to use them to heal and grow and use them for good somehow, for the benefit of the world around me and for the benefit of the people around me. Because if I can't do that, what is this all about, right? Mm-hmm. So I had that kind of mindset. So no wonder I graduated from high school, went to college and studied psychology, wound up at seminary soon after that. I worked as a college minister for a number of years, then as a missionary in Japan, and then 2+ decades as a pastor. But all through that time, I felt like my most engaging and fulfilling ministry, where I really felt my heart engaging, was when I was with hurting, grieving people. And I experienced multiple other losses, from age 16 on. They just pile up as you grow older. And then for 12 years now, I've been working in the hospice-oriented field as a chaplain, author, speaker, community educator, et cetera. Just trying to walk alongside hurting, grieving people as they hurt and grieve, and just kind of remind them of the things that are common in grief, and remind them that now is not forever, and that you will make it through this. You are not alone, even though you feel alone. You're not crazy, even though you feel like you're crazy sometimes. And you will get through this. And if you're willing to learn what loss can teach you, oh my goodness, there is no end to the impact for good you can have in the lives of those around you. And there's no end to the healing that you can experience yourself. It's counterintuitive. It's not what you would expect, but I have found it true in my own life. I know it's true in your life. And it's true in a lot of the lives of the people I've worked with over the years. So yeah. I guess it's no accident I wound up where I am. I'm one of those people that, your greatest pain becomes your purpose.
Yeah. And you realize that very young, actually.
And I can't take any credit for that. It's not like I sat down and really thought that through or anything at 16, but I really believe that this is just kind of what I was born to do.
Yeah. And you have a very interesting path to me because of the, being the pastor and the chaplain. And I was really interested to know, were you raised as a Christian, or did that sort of come as a result of the healing journey?
Oh, good question. I would say I was raised in what we call in Texas a Christmas and Easter family.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I mean by that. I'm sure everybody listening does. We went to church on Christmas and Easter. When I was about 10, okay, I always believed that God existed. I never remember doubting that, even with all the sexual abuse and everything. I can't explain that. I just can't explain that. I just did. And when I was 10 years old, I thought, okay, if God is really real, I need to get to know him. Because if he's really real, that means that he's responsible may not be a bad word. I believe he created me. I didn't create myself. My mom and dad didn't really create me. It's not like they ordered me from a menu, right? I mean, the genetics came together in a unique way. I'm very different from my brother, right? And I was faced with at 10, it's just like, I don't believe that's haphazard. I don't believe that's a coincidence. I don't believe that's an accident. And so mainly because I can't live that way.
Yeah.
I have yet to meet a person who can live as if all this is an accident.
Yeah.
Because that would mean to me that it's random, that the only meaning we've got is the one that we ourselves come up with, and it leaves us with no compass. And we need a compass. All of us need a compass. So anyway, so I asked people to take me to church. And so I started going to church by myself when I was 10. And I had a Sunday school teacher that was extremely kind to me. Actually, to our group of boys, we were kind of a misfit group. And he just took me aside one day and explained to me very clearly, although this Jesus character, who he is, etc. And I can say that day, the way I view it is, it's a relationship. People say, I'm not very religious. I shock them when I say, me either. Me either. Because to me, religion means do's, don'ts, rules, and rituals. It means a spiritual treadmill of just getting on something, and that's not what I'm about at all. I believe this is about relationship. We come out of the womb screaming for relationship. And if God created us, if he created me, then that makes sense, because he's a God of relationship. He wants a relationship with me and a relationship with all of us. And he loves us, so he doesn't force that on anybody. He just invites us. So one thing led to another. And I can honestly say today, yeah, my faith, or more specifically, Jesus as my best friend and my companion, has led to, I think, all the healing in my life. Granted, he used a lot of other people in that. I mean, dozens, maybe hundreds, right? And the real comfort for me is that Jesus knows about this stuff. He's experienced abuse. He's experienced abandonment. Nobody really understood him when he was here. He was misunderstood, reviled, rejected, etc. And he knows all about death too. So I thought, wow, he has been a great companion for me. So quick answer to your question, yes. I can't take credit for any of the healing that I've experienced, because it's not like I engineered that and controlled that. I just didn't. Things along the way just kind of, quote, happened, but I don't think they were random or coincidental, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you feel that with your with the people that you work with, who are in a lot of grief, that a spiritual connection, is really vital for their recovery, if you like, or reconciliation?
I don't know how you do it without that. Yeah. And let me explain why. I think there's, okay, I have to hesitate when I put things in boxes, but we only put things in boxes so that our poor brains can understand them a little better, right? So I think there are basically two boxes as to how we view ourselves as human beings. Box number one, I am predominantly a physical being who sometimes maybe can have a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
That's one box. Then there's another box that I am fundamentally a spiritual being, that right now I am housed in this physical body. Mm-hmm. And which box we view ourselves in is going to really impact how we live life. Yeah. And how we do grief too. And when we kind of set aside what I'll call the deepest, most core part of our being. I guess you can guess which box I think we're in. But anyway, I think not only do we miss out, but we cease to be what I'll call integrated. You know, a person of integrity, what does that mean? Well, they're the same all the time, whether they're behind closed doors or because they're integrated. The old church term is they practice what they preach, right? They live out what they believe or
Yeah.
what they say they believe. So I don't know how we can be integrated if we're not somehow in touch with the deepest part of ourselves, which I would call that my spirit. I call it that simply because that's what the Bible calls it. I mean, whatever. Anyway, so yes, I think it's extremely helpful. I would go so far as to say I can't imagine anybody. I mean, I think my view, God is gracious and he will help people heal anyway from a lot of things in spite of ourselves. But I think we can cooperate in that by taking our spirit and our spiritual life seriously.
Yeah, and I like how you were talking about the suitcases and the bricks, and that it's like life happens, doesn't it? And I don't know why we feel that it would be easy, that we shouldn't have any bricks. We should just have, I don't know, hand baggage as opposed to just have carry on as opposed to check in. And if we sort of have that more learning orientation to life, that the bricks are the things that are going to expand us, evolve us, teach us, as opposed to resenting the bricks.
Yes. What if we changed our thinking to, instead of, oh, I'm so tired of these obstacles, they're in my way, right? What if we said, oh, an obstacle. Maybe this obstacle is the way to help me heal and grow. It looks kind of ugly or an obstacle, but gosh, what if it's here on purpose to help me navigate through this somehow? It's not about positivity. I don't think positivity is important. Don't. I mean, it's hugely important, but it's really about beginning to change obstacles into opportunities and having the bigger worldview that no matter what happens, I am never damaged beyond repair.
Yeah.
I can heal, I can grow, and I can serve other people and help them heal and grow too.
Yeah. And that was making me think of the conversation we had before this about how a lot of licensed therapists and psychologists come to you actually because you have this wealth of expertise about grief. And, why do you think it is that this emotion that's so integral, why do you think it's sort of so unexamined and misunderstood?
Oh boy, that's a big question. I have a guess. I mean, my guess is this. We love to complicate things, Tara, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we love to get down in the weeds with things and get detailed. And I did too. Now, not so much because I've backed up, and it's like, for me at least, it's all about the big picture and keeping things simple. Because I think even those situations might be exceedingly complex and complicated, the next step is probably simple. Just because we're not going to solve this problem right now, right? But what's the next step with that? I think, and maybe I am biased because I'm a grief specialist and grief coach, but I believe every issue that we face in life is a grief issue. Anything that causes us trouble or pain. The reason I think that is that anytime we struggle with emotions that we have problems with, like sadness and anger and frustration and guilt and confusion and depression and anxiety and fear, etc., you can always find the thread. It goes back to a loss of some kind, or a perceived loss of something that's going to happen in the future if I don't, X, Y, or Z.
Mm.
It just sounds so much simpler to me rather than put things in all of these different boxes, which are helpful to a degree, to just remind people, hey, you're grieving.
Yeah.
You're grieving. And there are, even though everybody's different and the grief process is different for everyone, it's individual, there are patterns to grief. There are some things that almost all of us experience. And therefore, if we're all experiencing grief, you know what that means? That means we can actually walk together in this a little bit more than we thought we could, because we can just say, well, no, that's not my issue because his issue is such and her issue is such and such. But the reality is all of our issues are grief. And I think when I do meetings that I'm invited to for counselors or therapists, I'm just so thrilled that they're not looking at the letters behind my name.
Mm.
And well, maybe some of them are, and, and judging me based on that. Instead, they're looking at me as a practitioner with experience. And maybe I would describe myself as, I don't know, it's not about knowledge. There's a lot of intuitive stuff that happens there. And we need to pay attention to the intuitive people around us. So there's just things that I kind of know that I can't tell you even how I know them. And when other people hear that, they go, oh my gosh, really? And again, that's not about me. I didn't make that up, you know, that didn't. But I think in our complex world that's getting more complicated, it seems all the time, getting more fragmented, it makes sense for all of us that, wait a minute, let's pull it back in and let's see if we can simplify this thing. Does life have to be like this? And the answer is no, it does not.
Yeah, and it makes me think how we're sort of in this age of feelings more than ever, and engaging in the feelings, labeling them, being able to articulate them. And when we're willing or have the courage to say our precious parts, to somebody else, and they go, I understand, I feel that because I can relate, then that's what really, like you were saying, creates more connection. And that's essentially what we're here for as human beings.
Yes. You know, when we feel connected, I think we feel a little safer. And I don't know about you, Tara, but I'm coming to the conclusion that it's really hard, maybe impossible, for a person to heal and grow if they don't have some sense of safety.
Yeah.
And I say sense of safety because it's possible for a person to be safe, but they don't feel safe, right?
Definitely.
Because of some bricks in the suitcase back there. So I think all of us are really searching for a sense of safety. And I think that only comes with safe relationships and connection, like you're describing. And if we have enough of those in life and experience enough of that, look out. We begin to heal and grow. We become safe people. And then we can turn around and give that to other people because that's what people are really longing for.
Yeah, like you say, being of service. Yeah, in a world which is in a lot of pain right now.
Oh my goodness. I mean, even I don't have any idea, I just know what people tell me, and it's, oh, you're right. There's a lot of pain out there. A lot of.
So what do you think about the question, what do you think conscious grief looks like?
When I hear that term, I immediately think, okay, what is it not? And I think, okay, it would be subconscious grief, would not be conscious grief. What is subconscious grief? Well, it would be that stuff that's going on under the current in our lives, etc., that is grief oriented, that never sees the light of day, and it never gets to the surface of us. Well, it does because it leaks out eventually. Conscious grief, on the other hand, would be to recognize, oh, what I'm feeling is grief. And because that's what I'm feeling, I'm going to take that seriously. Now, feelings are not necessarily reality, and I need to remember that, but feelings are important. Feelings are designed to be felt, not necessarily to make decisions. Sometimes, yes, but they're designed to be felt. So I feel my feelings, and as I feel my feelings, I can actually begin to release some of them. But until I feel them, that's pretty hard to do. I mean, pretty hard to do. So I think conscious grief, what I think of is just engaging with our losses, learning from our losses, and making the commitment to really heal and grow, which means to grieve in healthy ways. Stop running from grief, stop hiding from grief, and instead just exist with it. Surround ourselves with some safe people who kind of do the same thing, and who knows where we could go or how much we could heal.
Exactly. So, and how could you share what you think are the gifts of grief to somebody who may think at the moment there's nothing good about how I'm feeling or what I'm going through right now?
Oh my. I think grief gives us a unique opportunity to really live. Now, some people will think I'm crazy when I say that. What is that? I think the person that really lives is the person that lives in the present moment, right? We're not good at that. We are not good at that. Let's just be honest. I'll be honest. I'm not good at that. I live in the past. I live in the future. I live in the future a lot more than I live in the past. And I find myself going, oh, a lot, because I just have this inability almost to live in the present. But grief and loss is a gift that can almost force us to live more in the present because of all the emotions and the thoughts that are going on and everything else that we used to engage in. You know, we have trouble engaging in that because this stuff is upon us and it's right here and it's right now. We can learn from loss. It can teach us to live life in the moment and step by step. I know there's a bunch of people out there that think they're multitaskers. I don't buy it. I mean, because I think my poor brain, you know, I can only really do one thing at once. Now I can do two things very quickly, but only one at a time. And I can only walk one step at a time. Yeah, I can leap. Yeah, I can jump, but only one leap or one jump at a time. And that's really the only way we can live life. And grief helps us do that for a little while, even though it's painful. Imagine if we could embrace that pain and really learn to live more in the now and to learn to live step by step. Grief can teach us to be grateful in ways that we've never been grateful before. It can teach us that to think deeper about our own life and our own mortality. It can help us to live more meaningfully than ever before with greater passion and purpose because our time here like this is limited. And it can teach us that there's not a moment to waste. I need to be about my mission and my purpose, not in terms of activity, but living from my heart, living from the guts of who I am. Grief can teach us to do all that in ways that, you know, nothing else can. You know, it's the old illustration of sometimes heating gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pure gold is completely transparent, so they say. Once you burn away, you have to burn away all the impurities. But imagine, gosh, it's beautiful before that, but pure gold comes only through fire. And sometimes I think for us, it's the same way. Loss can be used for astounding good because life is really all about overcoming. It's not about being comfortable. That just lulls us to sleep. It's not about being smooth because that's impossible. So I could go on and on about the gifts of grief, but that's just what immediately comes to mind.
That's beautiful. Thank you. We are coming to the end of our time, but is there anything else you would like to share before we wrap up?
Wow. I would say that you can probably guess that I'm really into relationship. So, you know, if my voice has resonated with anybody listening today, please visit my website. Please feel free to contact me and ask me a question. You don't like something I said, confront me about it, I'm cool with that too. Whatever. I'm here to dialogue. I am here to help people heal and grow, just like Tara is. And so please feel free to engage with me there. I will say this: if you're grieving and hurting today, please be kind to yourself, and please put self-care and loving yourself at the top of your list, because it's hard to give away what you don't have. And if your tank is empty, manage your inflow well during this time by taking care of yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for that reminder. I think we all need that reminder to
I certainly do.
bring our cups up. Yeah, thank you. Now, I wanted to tell the viewers, the listeners, that Gary has written about 18 books. Like, it's astonishing to me. When you go and visit his website, you're going to see the amount of incredible literature he has produced on this subject, which I imagine is very divinely inspired. And he's very, very kindly giving away an ebook. So there'll be a link at the bottom of this, and the ebook is Grief: 9 Things I Wish I Had Known. So that is a really, really wonderful tool for everybody. And I thank you very much for gifting that, Gary.
I absolutely glad to do it. Those are 9 things I wish I had known, and I still forget them sometimes.
Yeah, well, when we're so in our feelings, everything can, yes, we need the reminders.
That is so, so true.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm so appreciative. I'm so thankful, and that you replied to my request, and it's just a real pleasure to talk to you today. So thank you again.
Oh, Tara, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to know you, and thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this Conscious Grief Summit. I know that the impact will be great in people's lives. So thank you.